I'm doing fine, thank you.
Where are you? Where are you calling from?
Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I retired here about 10 years ago.
From where? Where did you move from?
I originally from Rhode Island, then moved to Vermont, and then down here.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
You just wanted to get out of that snow, huh?
Well, I was, yeah, that's right. One winter finished me off. It was 30 below one morning. I said, that's enough.
What is it? What does it mean when it says a big sky romance novel? What does that mean?
I did some graduate work in film and television at Montana State, and Montana's called the Big Sky Country. And when you're out there, you'll know it. You can see for 50 miles in every direction.
Okay. As you write a book that is a romance book,
it's the gritty side of romance.
The gritty side, yes. And so, do you appeal to female readers? Do you think, or male readers?
It's really hard to say. We focus this on the millennials, about 18 to 34. It's hard to say. I haven't sold many, but it's been about 50-50, so I really can't answer that question.
Well, and that actually makes sense to me, because I'm one of those guys that likes the books that are considered, what do you call it? Like a chick flick in the book genre. I kind of like that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, but you have to, obviously write for your whole audience. So, where did the ideas come from?
Back in 1992, I had a short story published called Dirty Work. It took place in Montana, and it turned out to be the template for the novel. And I also wrote another one around the same time. That I sent out. I got comments on the comments that this should be a movie or longer. So I just put those two away, and then I went through. I was doing a lot of other jobs, and I really didn't get back to writing until about 2001. And I started really writing it when I retired down here. I had a couple of other novels I wanted to clear up, and then about 2009, I decided I was going to try writing a draft of Patch of Dirt, and it came out as a screenplay, and I sent it off. I got terrible reviews, but a lot of good comments on it. And then I just started working on it for about 3 years, and I got it to about 68,000 words. And then I sent it out, and then Hawkins Publishing they saw something in it. They wrote me they signed me a contract. Their editorial board caught 5,000 words, and I ended up with a really good novel. I was very pleased with it.
It's kind of a roller coaster ride in some ways. If I could share with the listeners, I just want to read a little bit.
Sure.
He reached for her hand, then bent his head towards her lips for a kiss. He pulled away. They stood for a moment in the entrance, then stepped into the bar. "Still raining?" asked the bartender. "Yeah," said Joe. "Bad weather to be caught in." "His effing truck broke down," he said. "What do you have? A couple of shots of whiskey. Make them doubles." Wow. It goes in that short little passage right there. It goes from a beautiful romantic moment, right, to this guy asking for whiskey.
That's right. Well, Joe, the main character, is sort of he's a womanizing drifter, and he drinks a lot, and that's the section you read is from the first chapter when he meets Anna, and Anna. He falls in love with Anna. She refuses his marriage proposal, and he takes off, drunk and hitching again. He's picked up by Frank Hill, and then that starts the whole thing where Frank picks him up and looks at him as a possible candidate for siring the child that he can't have. And of course, Frank has a young wife. It sounds like a soap opera, but it's not. You read it; it's not a soap opera at all. It sets the whole thing off.
Yeah.
But I lived when I was living. I worked at my cousin's ranch a lot when I was in Montana, and I stayed in what was called a men's co-op, and I got to know a lot of the farmers. Those guys, they drank a lot. They had a pretty good looking thing. So I had a pretty good background, and a lot of the scenes in Montana came from notes I'd taken over the years. So it was pretty close to what actually happened.
Montana's like a mystery for most of the rest of America. I think we hear about it, we fantasize about it, but unless you've lived, and I've never lived there. But whenever I speak to somebody who has, it seems like you're giving me a little bit of insight of what it's really like there. And it sounds almost as fantasy-like as it seems. Is that
the eastern part of the state was much flatter, but you can see the Rockies from all over. And my cousin had a wheat and a cattle farm, and I spent a lot of time working on weekends, and I really got to like it. Ranching is not romantic; it's really tough. And the farmers like to drink a lot. I drank my way out of the Montana state, but that's what.
Are you married?
No, that was part of the life that we used to go to a bar in town and watched. She was a full-blooded Cree Indian named Barbara Ann. And when they played the Beach Boys tune, she'd go nuts, and the Cowboys would go wild.
Your book goes very deep, though. I mean, he talks about his mother and about alcoholism, and also about Frank with the trauma of the Vietnam War. I mean, it's very, very. You've got a lot of intertwining stories there that really make for a wonderful read.
And that's why it was hard to write it, because I had a lot of flashbacks. And the review board said get rid of most of the flashbacks, so it became a much tighter story. But I had a lot of material.
Oh, really?
When I came back from Montana, I wrote a really, really terrible first novel, which I still have, and a lot of that ended up in Patch of Dirt, and I improved it on. So that was a main source of some of the information. But I just kept adding and adding and adding, and it's easier to add rather than cut. So when it was cut, it was, like I said, it was much leaner, much faster. And I like the characters a lot. Joe seems to be everybody's favorite character, although I like Anna a lot.
So my comment about Montana being like a romantic, we romanticize it. We who've never been there, we romanticize.
Correct.
So now you've actually lived there, but at the same time, you mentioned earlier you were originally from Rhode Island, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So you can actually understand that the book will appeal to the rest of us, actually by making that the setting.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, if I was in Wyoming, it would have been Wyoming, but Montana was a place I always dreamt about, and because I had cousins there, it worked out even better.
So what is it? I mean, what do you think it is that, like, when we visualize what that's like, whether we're accurate or not doesn't matter. We visualize what it's like. Why do you think? Why do you think we go there in our daydreams?
Because it goes way back. I mean, it goes back to the myth of the West. The cowboy. I was dreamed about I got my first cowboy outfit when I was 8 years old, and watched all the half-hour shows on TV and all the movies. I just got brainwashed. I think that happens over a period of time, and people just dream about this myth. The Silent Sam Steelheart character rescuing a young maiden. And Montana has always been sort of the rugged West. The rugged cowboy. And there are plenty of those out there. I didn't get to see any rodeos, but those guys are the real deal. And it still has a mythical flavor to it.
I wonder if this could be the beginning of, because we don't see westerns anymore made on movies, etc. I wonder if this could be like the beginning of that, because it's just as viable a story like setting, I guess you would say, as anything else.
Yeah, I mean that's true. The westerns really peaked out around the early '60s, the movies. But if you go on Amazon and punch up westerns, there's hundreds and hundreds of westerns, and if you go in Goodreads and you punch in western groups, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of writers writing westerns. It's a really viable genre that's not going anywhere. I did a survey at the local Barnes and Noble, like 215 westerns by about 16 different authors. So it's definitely, not all of them are, some of them are those, the chick ones, like titles like One Night Charmer and Cowboy Untamed. There's a lot of those out there, but there's an awful lot of writers who are writing a lot of these, or a lot of the westerns and doing really well at it. I mean, if you check it, there's a woman in Australia who's writing westerns. There's another one in Montana. She's written trilogies. It's a genre that's not going away. But what's happening, I think, is that because a lot of these authors want to make this a difference. They're writing like sci-fi westerns, or zombie westerns, or horror westerns, or mystery westerns, to make it a little different. And most of the westerns are written, the old West from the 1840s to 1890s. That's where the predominant westerns are written. And the current ones, like mine, you get writers like Cormac McCarthy, Eric McMurdy, who wrote about the Old West. But there's quite a few. And there's quite a few women who wrote westerns too. So it's a genre, like I said, it's not going to go away. The sales were off 2% last year, and the year before they're up 7%. But that doesn't really mean much.
And what's wonderful about your character of Joe is that he has scruples, even though he was burned emotionally. He's tossing and turning about this offer from Frank. I mean, how can he really do this and live with himself? That's
right. I mean, at first I made him really. He didn't have much feeling. I said it didn't work. There were some comments against him. I made him. He does have a heart on him, and he is really conflicted. I mean, he loves Anna, and he keeps thinking about her. He's really entranced with Rita, and he finally realizes what he's fallen into this trap that they set up for him. And the ending surprised a lot of people. They didn't think that was going to happen.
Yeah, we won't tell.
Have you had comments from Vietnam veterans? Have you had?
No,
feedback?
I haven't.
No?
I haven't. I went to college, and one of my roommates had just come back from the early days of Vietnam, and he's what I modeled Frank on. Every time a car backfired, he just would lose it.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
I have a copy of the book. I'd like to give it away to a listener. Call me if you want it. The rest of us have to go buy it. Richard, give us a website or some other information so we can buy the book.
You can get it on Amazon.
Just go to Amazon. All right. And is patchofdirt.net, is that your website?
Yes.
Okay, patchofdirt.net. Richard,
And it's full of stuff. I have a blog that traces my time out west and all sorts of stuff, and there's quite a bit of information on it.
Okay.
And you can get to my other website from that one. I have two websites.
Okay, excellent. Well, what a great, even though it was short, interview. But thank you for being on with us today, Richard.
Thank you.
We will be right back.